Planning to start a media production company that involves in taking photos and videos for your customers? Yes, you come to the right place. So, hi guys, my name is Rodric and I'm a filmmaker here in Malaysia shooting in weddings, portraits, events, and commercials. So in today's video, I want to use my years of expertise doing this as a legitimate business to basically recommend on what I feel will be the best equipment for you when you're just starting out and possibly even upgrade in from the future. So there are many categories of equipments that you require when you're just starting out, and I'm just going to be going into it real smoothly one by one. We start off from the audio system. We have camera, lens, lighting, and a couple of miscellaneous stuff. So in total, you're going to have to stand by in your bank account this amount. Start with what you need is audio. The first thing I always recommend people getting is in audio systems. And let's talk about audio real quick. There are a couple of brands that you should be familiar right now if you're just shopping for it. There is DJI, there's Sennheiser, there's Boya, there is Rode, and many more. Now, similar to what when you're buying cars, they're basically like BMWs and Rolls-Royce. The Rolls-Royce being Sennheiser, you don't need that. You don't need 32-bit float audio. It's overkill. It's basically like raw audio. What I will recommend is basically affording something like a Fiat, right? This is the Fiat, the DJI systems. And this one just came out in 2024, the DJI Mic Mini. As the name suggests, it's pretty small compared to what I'm wearing right now. I would recommend this as your first starting purchase because when you're out shooting in content, you not necessarily need a camera or lens just yet, or even lighting. You basically need a phone. This phone, to be exact. A phone that is able to record in video, is able to download in CapCut or any video editor, and you're able to capture in pretty good audio. You can basically start from there. So you basically only need like $200-300 to get started in this journey. So in this thing, let's look into how do we set it up onto the phone. It comes with either a USB-C or a lightning cable. Just be sure to know what you're picking. It comes with a receiver as well. And this attachment goes into the receiver to basically plug into your phone. And you can basically have one. No. It's two. You have two mics that you can attach from yourself and to someone next to you to basically interview them, and it's all being recorded into your phone camera. How cool is that? That's all you need to get started in 2025, guys. It's so cheap to start a production company. Like, it's all it takes is just guts, honestly. So now that you have good audio coming into your phone, let's look into like, okay, I want to do this a bit more seriously. I don't want to play around with a phone. I want to go into the major league. I want to shoot in professional photos and videos for my customers. Then you probably want to look into cameras. So in this camera that I will recommend, similar like what we have that issue on what brand to choose, I wouldn't recommend this be the one video just that you watch. Watch other videos as well, because there are plenty of other brands that just does almost the same thing but not the same. There's Canon, there's Sony, there's Fuji, there's Nikon, and so on and so forth. I always use Canon, and that's what I've started with, so I would recommend you Canon, but also take note on what Sony is offering for that same price point. Just a pinch of salt on that. Now to start off with my recommendations in 2025, I would recommend you starting out with the Canon RP. The Canon RP is a pretty old camera that it basically can get used up to like $400 or $500. Now this is pretty cheap for a full frame camera that does in 26 megapixels professional photos. It does in pretty good video as well. To talk about photos real quick, let's look into what I like it. So it's full frame. It accepts in great lenses such as what I'm going to recommend you later. It gives you professional results, nice blurry background. Its autofocus is pretty good, and there's nothing more to say. It's a perfect photo camera and it's pretty light. Honestly, this is a really light camera, starting out like 460 grams. Now I do have this vertical grip that's golden in color attached. That's extra. You don't need that. I only put it in so that my pinky would rest nicely into this camera. This is like an additional $50 attachment. So you're looking realistically like $550 to get this complete setup. Now let's look into the Canon RP's video specs. The video specs of the Canon RP might not be that great, and perhaps the reason why it's so cheap in the first place. The 1080p up to 60 frames, it's what's basically normal in the wedding industry. We love that slow-mo kind of look in our wedding films, and that's always shooting in at 60 frames. Now, being at 1080p in 2025, I don't quite recommend it, but it's still passable work. Majority of streaming platforms such as your phone, such as Facebook, YouTube, they are all standardized at 1080p. But with coming in years, I would always suggest customers to pick in 4K and shoot in 4K. But in 4K for the Canon RP, that's where the problem hits. It doesn't actually shoot up to 60 frames, so you can't actually slow it down. It basically works only 4K at 25 frames, which is pretty good when you're doing in live video interview format like this. But it becomes a hindrance when you're shooting in B-roll and you want to slow something down. There is just no room for that. On top of that, it has a crop factor. So being in full frame, like if you switch in from the difference of 1080p to 4K, you see that in this video, I have become so much smaller in the frame, so much more zoomed in, regardless of me not even moving the camera, not touching anything aside from switching it to 4K. The 4K in that camera zooms in. So that's just how it is. It crops into the full frame camera because it just doesn't have the processing power to shoot in 4K at full frame, full width the sensor. It basically zooms in. And this is the Canon RP shooting it at 1080p at 30 frames per second at 1/60 shutter speed, f2.8, 56,000 kelvins, and at 320 ISO. Okay, I've basically changed the settings into 4K and the screen got way much tighter than it needs to be. It's currently shooting at the same 38mm focal length, but at a 1.6 crop factor, hence why it looks like that. That is my major gripe. Now, at the same time, if you're starting out a media agency and you feel like you do take a couple of product photos, example of a water falling into something and there's like a nice slow-mo effect that is really slow. So when you look into those kind of features, I would never suggest getting this camera. You need to do your duty, to do your research and look into higher models such as the Canon R8 or the Canon R6 Mark II. Those shoot up to 180 frames and you get better slow-mo results than the Canon RP. Now that I'm done talking about what camera body to buy, let's look at lenses real quick. Now, the lens that I would recommend you starting out, it's pretty expensive. It's literally about like 2005 or 3000 new versus used. This is the Canon RF 14 to 35mm f4.0 IS. Now this lens is great because it's 14mm, it's wide. Like I majority of the time shoot in event videos and I get great results using this lens. Now it punches into 35mm, which is more useful to what our eyes are accustomed to. And I really do like the look from this lens. This may not be the only lens that you buy. You may come across with more lenses along your journey. But when you're just starting out, you need this lens. A wide angle is always useful in your kit as of when you're shooting in interviews or street photography. But I must say, having lenses, it's like a long game. You basically need to invest whatever money that you earn into this system to upgrade your lenses from like 14 to 35, and you need longer lenses such as 50mm, 85, 7200 and so on. That will be on a separate video. I won't be covering those lenses here. So this lens now 2000 into the shopping cart. Here we go. Aside from this, let's look into the last thing. Basically, it's lighting. When you're talking about lighting, it's not really necessary to always have it, but it's good. When you're shooting in like for TikTok or videos like this, you need this kind of lighting. And this is the Aperture MRN 200D. Probably sets you back like $200 to $300. This is only shooting in daylight. So basically you can't change the color to like purple or orange. It only shoots in white light. Yes, it may not be that good if you want to change it to a different color, but essentially that's what I got with, and basically I'm using it all the time for my YouTube videos. So with that you have it folks, these are my recommendations on what you should get out when you're just starting out a media production agency that requires you shooting in photos and videos yourself. You don't basically require the best of the best just yet. Again, majority of your funding should come into marketing, promoting yourself, putting yourself out there. Hence, this is why if you're just starting out, I have a free guide for you to select down in the link provided below in my subscribe page. Once you've subscribed to me, you'll be able to receive in 2 free guides. One of it is how do you shoot a Chinese actual day wedding, guiding you from A to Z on what you basically need to do, what are the checklists that you need to have. Second is I have an event guide page, basically on teaching you how to you shoot event videos, what angles do you need in your editing, and what camera, what softwares do you basically require to edit on. So with that in mind, there you have it, folks. These are my recommendations for 2025 on what should you get. I really do hope that I've answered in as much as best possible on what you do, but do understand that any more lengthy onto like this kind of videos, it's just gonna go crazy. So there you have it, folks. So subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want to talk more in details of each and individual one of them, there will be a separate link should you want it. All right, so I'll catch you in the next episode, guys. Peace out.